Good morning, church family. It is Monday morning, meaning it's time for some Motivational Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, and hopefully this week will be even better as you start it, maybe with a focus on what God is asking of us this week. I want to present the questions this morning. Are our eyes working correctly? I used a quote in this past week's service. We have never looked at a person God doesn't love. And I remember the first time I heard that quote, it was pretty challenging to me when I started to think about the vastness of the people that I've seen in my short life. It's a lot of people still. And then beyond that, if I were to go looking for other people I have not yet seen, how many people I would see. We know there's roughly 8 billion people in the world, and so that's a lot of people. And that's also a lot of people that God loves. But it got me to thinking about our eyes, because I don't think we always do look at people and think, well, God loves them. We think about what is wrong with them, or maybe we've been hurt by them and we've been challenged by them, and we have our own things to work through with seeing that person as an image bearer of God. But I started thinking about our eyes and actually how they work, and maybe you know this, and if I'm just being redundant, you can turn me off, I guess. But I always think it's fascinating to learn and relearn things. But when the light hits the retina, which is that thin layer of tissue all the way in the back of our eye, all of these little cells called photoreceptors turn that light into electrical signals. And these electrical signals will then travel through our retina, which is like this long tube at the back of our eyeball, up to our brain and an optic nerve. And then the brain unscrambles all of these electric signals and turns them into images, which we see in our brain, really. And that's basically what you're looking at right now, is just unscrambled electrical signals that your light has seen through different reflections of light. And it got me to thinking, so if all we're seeing are different variations and degrees of reflections of light, we're actually not seeing, my face or my shirt or the ceiling tiles above me. Those are just reflections off of those things. Yes, they're there, and that is what we're seeing, but they're actually just reflections of light. And so it occurred to me, that must mean it takes a process, obviously a very fast process. Thank God our eyes work really fast. We're able to move through the world fastly and run and drive cars and not hurt people and kill people, not intentionally at least. So it's very a fast process, but still a fast process. So the time you look at something, there is light being reflected off of it and back and being unscrambled in our brain. Now, with that thought in mind, we are actually judging people technically before our brain unscrambles the light that we're seeing, because actually when we see people, we're just seeing reflections of light off of them. We're not actually seeing that person in the true moment. There's a scrambled signal being unscrambled in our brain, yes, very fastly, but it's still like this idea that we're ahead of ourselves, right? Like this other person has hurt me, so I'm never going to talk to them again, or this person's different from me, so I don't really like them. You go on and on and on. So really, they're all just different variations of light that we're processing in our head. So what is it that God is actually asking us to do ahead of that? Maybe the predisposition should be, before I walk out my door, before I get out of my bed, before I pick up my phone, I'm going to be intentional about whatever my eyes are reflecting off of, and whoever, I want to know that God loves them first before I make some kind of judgment call on them. And I know there's pain, and I know people have to work through trauma, and I know people have to work through different situations where maybe it's not healthy to be around some other person, but that's still another topic for another day, and I understand that. But also, God loves the unlovable. I mean, the worst of the worst, he still loved them. And I know that's a hard thing for us to understand. I mean, you can go as far, God loved Hitler, and we know Hitler did terrible, terrible things, and we don't condone any of it. But to think that God still loved him, that's a love that is so unfathomable at times that it just feels too big. But it is a big challenge, and I'm not saying it's easy. So I don't know who is in your circle this week that is going to be reflecting some light back to you, and you might be having a thought before even that image is being unscrambled in your brain about how you really feel about them. But maybe you can go ahead of time and set yourself up for success and say, you know what, God, you're going to put people in my life this week that are going to be a challenge, but you love them, and help me love them too. Proverbs 20 verse 12 says this: ears to hear and eyes to see are both gifts from the Lord. And so my prayer for myself and for you this week is that you would have ears to hear and I would have ears to hear, and that we would both have eyes to see what God is doing in and among our world, and even the difficult and unlovable people, that he could unscramble our own images that we're making up in our brain to see them as lovable. And so I'll end with this: Matthew chapter 13, 15 through 17. For the hearts of these people are hardened, and their ears cannot hear, and they have closed their eyes, so their eyes cannot see, and their ears cannot hear, and their hearts cannot understand, and they cannot turn to me and let me heal them. And Jesus says this: but blessed are your eyes, because they see, and your ears, because they hear. I tell you the truth, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see, but they didn't see it. And they long to hear what you hear, but they didn't hear it. So hear these words: we have never looked at a person that God doesn't love. I'm praying that you can wrestle with that, prepare yourself for whoever crosses your path, and knowing that you're just as unlovable at times as other people. And so we have to give each other grace, just as I am as well. Hopefully you have a great week. Know that we love you, praying for you, and use those eyes to see as God sees.